Continuing on with our deep dive into Jonathan Taylor, our mover of the year for 2021, we're actually going to investigate not one, not two, not three, but four separate plays from the week 7 matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. A few things or a few reasons as to why we're going to do that at varying levels. We're going to investigate a few different nuances that are similar, but that show off some of the strengths of Jonathan Taylor, some of both the attunement and adaptability capacities that Jonathan Taylor actually possesses, and that we often see emerge from him in his skill execution or his integrated movement problem solving composition. But we're also going to see some of the gaps and some of the weaknesses that he may actually possess as well, even in highlights, even in plays where a functional movement solution still emerged. The other thing that I want to make a mention to here in regards to this specific play is it was taking place away on grass and with a surface that was wet at times, there was some precipitation that fell in San Francisco during this Sunday night football matchup. Also, a primetime game. Notice I said a Sunday night matchup, and we've talked before at here at on our movement plays of the week at Football Beyond the Stats, specifically about how being the only game in town, the only game going at that time, can bring certain arousal, anxiety, pressure, where all the eyes of the football world are on one game. Don't think that that's lost upon players. Players react differently under those constraints, but they are certainly constraints that are present, that are acting as an umbrella over all other constraints within sort of these problem and solution, ever evolving dynamics. We're going to look at, like I said, four different plays that took place over the course of the game and investigate a few things that unfolded. Let's get into the first play here. Notice it's still early on in the game. The Colts are trailing 12-7 to the 49ers at this point. Both teams are kind of still trying to find their way at this point early in the season. First quarter, less than 2 minutes to go yet in the first, and the Colts are driving on 2nd and 10. And we're going to see probably some of the best attributes, some of the best qualities being expressed within the movement skill that Jonathan Taylor has and will emerge with. So let's go ahead and watch it at 100% speed as we typically would. And I apologize for the buffering there. We will watch it a couple times through. And I do think they're going to give us a few views of it here. So we're going to be able to see, I think, 2 or 3 views to see some different things unfolding in some different ways that will help us better tell that movement problem solving story for the player. Again, remembering problem solution dynamics and their changing states of organization between the two. So let's go and watch it one more time through here at 100% speed before we get into the 50%. Hopefully, those of you who have watched these football plays of the week during the course of the 2021 National Football League season, or those that might just have stumbled upon the work that I do through this Jonathan Taylor Mover of the Year analysis, you're already seeing some trends here taking place, specifically in regards to what Jonathan Taylor may be attuning to and what he is adapting around. So the true problem that is there for Jonathan Taylor to solve. So after watching it through at 100% speed, like I said, hopefully some things you're already picking up on. A couple of things that I want to point out here, first and foremost, is we are always speculating. We are always subjectively, qualitatively assessing what may be happening, what may be unfolding, specifically when we put ourselves within the human movement system of a respective player. We never really truly know for sure when we're studying movement behavior as a third person perspective or point of view as to what what information a player is connecting to, how that information might be influencing their emergent decision making, and ultimately how they're coordinating, controlling, and organizing the action, how they're adjusting it to meet the needs of the respective problem. We can only qualitatively speculate, but that hopefully becomes more and more educated guess as time goes on. So even as the play kicks off here, obviously the ball going to Carson Wentz, you can see it's about to hit his hands before he hits and gives Jonathan Taylor, his stud running back, an opportunity to go make a play here to put them in a place where they're more contention with now the eventual playoff bound San Francisco 49ers. A few things that I want to point out right away. Okay. This little game that's being played up front here with San Francisco 49er number 93 as he moves in between the center and the guard. That's something that obviously, first and foremost, is Jonathan Taylor takes the ball. And let me just go ahead here, as you can see, as he moves between center and guard. That's all information, though, even though we can't see Taylor's eyes. Okay. He's going to be attuning right here. That's his first read on this respective play. I think with that, we have to think about how, again, this is an online control, an online perceptual pickup, that he directly is utilizing that information to guide subsequent actions. His second and his third step and where his path may need to go is all based on that first and foremost. Okay. So that movement from number 93, again, right here, let me go back one snippet just so you can see that right from the start. I don't want you to miss it because it obviously will guide that which one unfolds right off the bat. So he comes free. Okay, number 93 comes free. And there's also, we have free guys coming off right here. I think this is number 24 coming off the edge on a little bit of defensive back blitz off the edge. That information is information that's relevant and pertinent. It is a threat at that moment in time, as is number 93 here, even though he has his own player and number 81, I think that's Mo Alley Cox, number 81, who's going to come and take on this gentleman, this defensive tackle right here. All of that is this information space, as we talk about. Okay. With that information space, there's numerous varying levels of specifying information sources, numerous information sources that are potentially specifying, depending on exactly what frame, meaning when we may connect to that respective information. Okay. When we're talking about information movement coupling, specifically within team sports that are more complex, more interacting component parts, there will never or very rarely be one specifying information source, as there may be in other more reduced, more decontextualized tasks, more isolated tasks, maybe studied in a laboratory. But in chaotic, complex American football, obviously a bunch of different information sources that one could be connecting to that they're going to use to guide their movement action. Didn't mean to belabor that, but I think it's important. So we perceive to act and act to perceive in a constant fashion, and the more dexterous movers are going to do exactly that. So here with number 24, there's an initial perceptual pickup, an information pickup of him and his behaviors. Where is he coming? When is he going to be there? How must I act, Jonathan Taylor, in order to respond accordingly? So we're going to see him go right back behind 81, who has this interaction, and that's going to be dynamically unfolding. Obviously, this is not a stationary. These aren't trash cans out here, as sometimes is practiced in American football circles, right? He is flexibly and adaptively adjusting in real time. Okay. And as we see him do exactly that, he coordinates and controls his actions to 24 here to make sure that his path, if I could get us back on the full screen, gets us exactly, or gets him exactly where it is that he needs to go between this dyadic relationship, 81 versus 93, and then 24 making the diving attempt. Watch here as Jonathan Taylor flexibly adapts behind this interaction, and he gets skinnier. So he cannot run on this train track, this linear train track type of path. He actually has to, if this is his left leg and this is his right leg, he actually has to bring this right leg across his body, contort his body ever so slightly to get skinnier to get between this gap. Okay. The best running backs, obviously running in tight traffic, have a tendency to naturally self organize and adjust in doing exactly that. So that getting skinnier allows the play. Notice even how his body just kind of gets in one of these constrained actions that also works in twofold to get between the gap, as well as then with number 93 right here, who I'm circling with my mouse, him reaching through that Mo Alley Cox number 90 or number 81 reach block that is occurring there. So all of that is stuff that has to happen, movement actions that have to happen in interaction with that which what is unfolding in the problem. So we shouldn't miss that. Okay. As this tackle attempt happens here, essentially we can see Jonathan Taylor, hand goes down. We know from some of our other study, we look at his position right here as he comes through this hole, through this gap, and he can feel haptically, he can feel and touch that which what is out in, as a threat acting in accordance with him or in relation to him. We see that from Jonathan Taylor over and over and over again. He uses that hand for a dual purpose. He uses it as a feeler. Where am I in space versus where is that guy? He also uses it as an action tool to keep defenders away from him. Okay. I know it seems subtle, but it's obviously very, very apparent, and we see it as a trend with Jonathan Taylor's movement. We also see, look at his lower body position here. The knee gets high, so the foot gets further away from the hand. Guys and gals, this is all information movement coupling that is self-organized in an emergent fashion. So we don't want to miss it. However, because of this threat, both of 24 here, who is now down on the ground, and so I want to get back here. So 24, this threat, Jonathan Taylor has to move a little bit more quickly than he would typically like to, this close to the line of scrimmage, and as he goes through this initial gap. And then number 93 in the outstretched arms, Jonathan Taylor has to move a little too quickly than he typically would be accustomed to moving in this scenario or situation. As he gets himself going, that allows him, or doesn't allow him, the same type of time to take in information maybe wider within that information space or that perceptual motor landscape. So I believe here, as he's getting away from this threat of number 93, he now concurrently has to take in information about upcoming threats, and he might, in fact, be missing other potential specifying information sources, specifically here between his own teammate, number 78, who is interacting in this dyadic relationship with number 51, the linebacker. Okay. So I believe here, Jonathan Taylor might be potentially missing some key information because he's already attending to a very complex movement problem with numerous interacting component parts. Threat here and threats that are coming here, but a gap that he's trying to pick up this first down, right? So when we talk about intentions, typically we're talking about scoring, we're talking about making a guy miss, we're talking about picking up a first down, these intentions that act as an umbrella to scaffold the perceptual information that we must pick up and how we would adapt our actions in accordance to it. So right now, first and foremost, he's thinking first down, of course, right? Second and 10, he can see where it is that he has to get the line to gain, and there isn't anything at this moment, as long as he can get past this initial threat, between first down marker and him himself. Okay. So I believe he again may be missing that which what is happening a little wider in his right field of vision in his periphery. This is something I sometimes see from him with complex movement problems, things that are acting in his periphery, either right or left. Okay. He gets a little fixated, a little anchored too far in this tunnel vision. So even the most dexterous of movers, the most attuned of movers, are still potentially missing some key specifying information sources. So he was moving a little too fast for this problem. That interpersonal distance then becomes a issue of brinkmanship. Okay, Craben or Craben, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, in an article from 2019 with combat is an interpersonal synergy. It's a review article where they kind of talk about an ecological approach to combat sports. They coined this idea of brinkmanship, and it's one that I really like. It's really about operating at the edges of a metastable zone or region. And that brinkmanship, those individuals who are more or display higher levels of brinkmanship can operate across that bandwidth of interpersonal distance and still organize and coordinate a movement behavior in relation to it. And this now we can see is kind of what I'm finding from Jonathan Taylor. Let's take it right from his perceptual gaze in his eyes. He's obviously anchored, as I mentioned before, potentially missing that which what is happening here. Now, he could be combining his perceptual information of number one, I want to say this is, it might not be number one. We'll see when we get there. This safety that is coming down and approaching now 7-8 yards away or so. This is still a good distance away, but he's trying to get a clear information detection about him. But as he's updating that perceptual information, as he moves on this path, hopefully he's feeling some of this, but this is a dynamic unfolding problem here. Okay. So again, a lot going on here that I don't want to miss. But he then is going to coordinate this crossover action. Oops, I still have my star on there. I apologize for that. He's going to execute this crossover action. Watch as it's taking place in relation to Kelly here, Ryan Kelly, number 78, and then number 51, that linebacker for the 49ers. He kind of picks them up late, as we can see right now on this still frame. And remember, again, speculation, as I mentioned earlier, we're subjectively, qualitatively analyzing this and speculating as to what he's picking up and when he's picking it up based on how he's acting and what we're seeing unfold from him. Okay. So let me get us just a little bit further back because, again, complex movement problem. He makes this decision as to where he wants to go, which is back on the inside of this interaction without knowing exactly where this is. But this, again, shows the true dexterity of Jonathan Taylor and why he is the very most skillful doing this, the best of the best currently doing this. He's operating on the edges of this metastability, okay, this interpersonal distance that he has between himself right now and two information sources of this safety come crashing down, who's now 4.5 yards away, and then this dyadic relationship occurring here. Okay. Now, I will say this, even though he is in this kind of outside footed plant on the left leg right now, we can see the right foot is up and he's in a left footed plant. He's going to cross over from left to right. Okay. I would typically see or like to see, at least if he was moving in a more ownership speed here, but again, it all is context dependent. So I can only judge and critique so much. But if a guy were able to move at a little more ownership speed or pace, come into more of a two-footed, wider base of support type of plant to still give them a better two-way go, to push out at an angle that maybe would take him more here, as opposed to the angle that is going to be executed there. He ends up taking this one in this crossover, right, to then get himself in through this gap. If he were able to widen out, be in a little better control, he might have a little different opportunity or affordance that presents itself. But again, guys and gals, I'm being highly critical here. I'm picking and choosing some things because the movement solution that he actually ends up coordinating, controlling, and organizing is still a highly functional one, and it's functional for him. So who am I to really criticize? But that's a story in and of itself for another story or for another time. Sorry. So we see this crossover now. Look at that. It is all, like I said, we're talking brinkmanship here. It is operating on the edges, adapting it flexibly based on that alive movement problem that's unfolding. And of course, he almost gets tripped up but the Jonathan Taylor that we've come to know and love the movement of, dynamic balance is a piece and a portion of that, which often shines for us and for him. And now we see Jonathan Taylor go into true Jonathan Taylor mode, which is see a gap, exploit the gap. Okay. That gap in his trust in his acceleration gas pedal is special. Let's not miss that. When he sees a gap, he wants it. It calls for him. He trusts in his gas pedal and it beckons him to accept it. And that's exactly what he does here. Okay. The one thing I don't want to miss is look at that little glance, something that we often see again from Jonathan Taylor. The best of Jonathan Taylor is he's constantly picking up information while he's acting. We've seen it over and over and over again with movement plays of the year, a week from over the course of the year. But we also see it in some of these deeper dive breakdown videos. Acting while perceiving, perceiving while acting. It's a constant information pickup. Watch it right here coming up. That little glance over his left shoulder, this feel with the three chasers, and then he gives another for good measure, even though number one ends up bringing him down to the ground. We don't want to lose that, which what was just done in the solution of this problem. He just exploited the gap of three chasing defenders who already had a jump on him. Okay. Action capabilities do matter, guys and gals, and it's something that we definitely want to take and draw our attention to. The other thing I will say here is that he often gets out of these types of block or these types of tackle attempts, types of blocks, these types of tackle attempts. You can tell I'm already moving on to seeing it from another view. He often gets himself out of these type of tackle attempts by a little bit of high knee action, picking up the foot, picking up the heel, taking it away from the defender. But that's just a good tackle in the open field, especially with a guy who's moving at a fast clip. So again, let's highlight some of the things on this play that we weren't able to see from the sideline view that we can now see as it's moving in slow motion. Number 93, jumping inside, him using that information to get skinny up through that hole. And now right here, again, now that we see it from this view, let's not miss the trees through the forest here. Look at that. This is Fred Warner, former All Movement team member. This is Nick Bosa, current All Movement team member. He was a mention last year or 2 years ago. Sorry, he was my rookie mover of the year. These are no slouches of movement skill and movement capability. Fred Warner, the best, one of the best currently doing it, and Nick Bosa here. Complex movement problem, solving problems in relation alive movement problems in relation to highly complex problems. Look at this right here. Again, this is what I was talking about. Sorry, that was number 3. That was Jakarski Tart, I want to say. And we can see this interpersonal distance that is guiding it. Watch how early he takes in this information about Tart. Okay. Now that I see it from this view, I'll be honest with you, I think he might be able to, even though he is certainly looking ahead towards Tart, I'm not sure what he's picking up here. Again, in his periphery, wider within his perceptual gaze in his landscape as to what is unfolding in this interaction. Again, we can only speculate. I would love to be able to ask him if he were to know and be able to acknowledge and take himself back to this moment. And now, again, here's where we see that interpersonal distance. We see that brinkmanship, and we see that flexible, adaptable adjustability from Jonathan Taylor. Let's see it one more time here as he really zeroes in on Tart. And again, now we see him take in that information late. Love being able to see what he's seeing, okay, and when he's seeing it. Again, perceive to act, act to perceive when moving at high speeds. Let's see it one more time for good measure here on this view. Watch with me, if you will. speculate as to what information he's taking in, when he's taking it in, and how it's leading to the coordination of his movement behaviors. Okay. Moving on to our second play that we want to get into here today. We see again more of the greatness, more of the good stuff that really makes up who Jonathan Taylor is and how he moves in relation to a live movement problem. So at 100% speed, let's go ahead and watch it through as we typically would. And I've talked before about his adjustability of that jump cut out of numerous platforms, numerous positions. We're going to see that in the second, third, and fourth play here coming up. And that is nifty footwork in context, right? You guys can already see that. We saw all three views here. Let's watch it one more time. Again, that's the tail end of play one. Here comes play two. Again, at 100% speed. Watch it from another view. Remember, as we put those views together, it helps us update our understanding or our speculations that we're making. Fred Warner again, getting posterized and getting put onto Jonathan Taylor's highlight reel. Let's get me back here. Okay, so on this second play now, let's get back to our 50% speed so we can attune ourselves as movement analysts with our skilled movement analysis lens, that we can attune ourselves to that which what is unfolding and that which what may be occurring here. Again, let's remember the cutting examples that I've utilized in the past. The more adaptable movers, before they can ever truly be adaptable, they have to have abundance of movement strategies, either coordination strategies, which would be somewhat similar but yet different movement strategies, or the controllability, the parameterization of a coordination strategy, such as this with Jonathan Taylor in this jump cut, this lateral jump cut, which is going to be flexibly and adaptively adjusted. Before one can get to adaptability, abundance must be present within the system. And that is one of the calling cards of Jonathan Taylor's movement skill. So this jump cut here is executed in any number of ways. Not only the jump cut itself, but the entry into it. In this case, we see him do this little jump stop into a little hop stop, if you will, into a bilateral support position that we see him into right here, where obviously he's already leaning from left to right to go into it. But oftentimes when we see him execute this, and there will be numerous examples of it in our deep dive, he'll hit this little jump stop or hop stop. It's not very exaggerated, meaning he's not going very high and then coming down into it. It's a subtle jump stop or hop stop. But as he's hopping, while he's in the air, while his feet are about to come in contact, he's detecting information. He's actually utilizing that in a Le'Veon Bell type of style. So if you think back to Le'Veon Bell 5-6 years ago, where he's patiently moving behind the line of scrimmage, he's still giving himself options, much as Jonathan Taylor is, to not necessarily just go where it is that he's going to go, which is from left to right, but also having an option to go and break this outside. And he easily, I believe, could have done so here in this case. Okay. So that hop stop gives the moment for the information detection of that which lies in front of him. Okay. This information, particularly of here with Fred Warner, in this interaction between Werner and I don't know what number of his teammate this is at this moment. We'll get to it when we get into the other view. Is determining, again, your movement will determine my movement in a Bruce Lee type of fashion. Of course, I'm sporting a Bruce Lee shirt here today too, so that helps, right? The highest technique is to have no technique. My movement is a result of your movement. That's basically what Jonathan Taylor is doing. In his landscape of opportunities, he's trying to keep more opportunities open, right or left, in this strategy or in that strategy, keeping more options on the table. an abundance of ways to act. Let me get us back one moment so you can see that right prior to this point. Okay. Watch this hop stop, watch this jump stop, because there's something else I want to illustrate there as he goes down into that. I would like to see him add a strategy where he actually takes shorter stutter steps into a wider base of support, into a lower coiled position. Okay. Wider and lower. I would like to see him add something of that to his arsenal because I think there will be some efficiency that comes with it, but I think there will be some options that get opened up with it as well. Options for other reacceleration patterns beyond this jump cut that he typically executes. So what I would like to see from him to add would be coming into this lower coil and with every passing step get a little wider. Now, of course, that has some disadvantages as opposed to this hop stop or jump stop. The hop stop or jump stop, he can execute from any position and basically go from high to low and already be in kind of this medium stance. But I'd like to see him kind of play around with coming in nice and low and close to the ground, and with every passing step, get a little wider and still being able to move left or right from it. Because I think there we would see maybe a shuffle step type of acceleration, not just always resorting to the jump stop. We would see a harder type of power cut where we have an outside foot maybe moving from left to right. If he were to employ a wider stance here. Again, can open up options, can add tools to the toolbox if he were to do this. And it's something that I will highlight in other videos as well. I know I belabored that. I know that I spent a good amount of time discussing that there, but we see that jump cut then. He's always right back into acceleration, isn't he? And man, that is skillfully, flexibly adjusted to meet the needs of the problem and right into acceleration. Look at that. 1, 2, 3 steps. As he's doing that now, let me get, remember, it's always about what is he attuning to and adapting around. Let's not get ourselves too caught up into the actions themselves, even though the actions are nifty and even though that gas pedal is special. And the gas pedal is special because some aspects of the movement mechanics themselves are special, right? Again, it's always perceived to act, act to perceive. Here he's taken in 2 information sources. There's a safety back here. Okay, I want to say it's number, I'm not sure. Maybe it's number 1, maybe it's number 3. He's also probably, at least maybe not necessarily at this moment, even if he is perceptually, peripherally attuned or connected to it, he is going to glance over there and see this interaction between 84 and I believe this is number 4. Okay, so 84 and 4, we'll see it from a different view as well. Right there, we see him look toward it, and he actually moves his path to follow it. Okay. One thing that we see from Jonathan Taylor, a major strength of his, is when he does connect, specifically in a more tunnel vision type of fashion with his perceptual gaze. Perception out in front, deeper and longer. He is able to attune to successive affordances. This dyadic relationship and that which what might be being presented out in front. If this interaction were to get too far over here, that's where I believe he misses it. Okay. But if it's in front of him and he's anchored somewhere, such as he will be on this safety, again, it's either number 1 or number 3 back here. He's able to then connect, as we're about to see, with 84 and 4. Okay. And watch his movement behavior in relation to 84 and 4 here. He actually follows 84 to use that to put this cat on a string and to keep his options a little bit more open. Okay. High level stuff. Layers to this, guys. Layers. Okay. Look at him follow that. But once he makes the decision and reads the leverage of 84 and 4, okay, 84 and 4, look at, even though this is kind of a misperception to a certain degree, he's trusting what his eyes see about number 4. Jonathan Taylor, trusting what his eyes are seeing about number 4 in this interaction here, trusting in that or what he's picking up. When he sees him move back this way a little bit, he just decides to get what he can, moving vertically north to south. Okay. And this guy is already coiling readying himself for action, knowing that he has some help in 26 here. So there's some things that I might like to see Jonathan Taylor do that would add some aspects here, add some options, some potential options to be able to maybe bounce this outside at different times and maybe find different opportunities to act in different ways out there. Okay. So it turns into, as we're about to see, let's not miss our cutting strategy here. Watch this hop stop. Boom, right there. Okay. This is actually pretty wide. Okay. But if he were to come in lower and closer to the ground, he actually could be in a deeper squat knee bend to give himself more options. Hopefully I'm illustrating this accurately for you guys, or I shouldn't say accurately. I know it's accurate. Adequately for you guys so you can understand it. Okay. If he were to be wider, lower, closer to the ground, it opens up opportunities for his reacceleration out of this cutting and plant position. Okay. Again, remember, this is information that is highly specifying at this moment, this interaction with 62 behaving with 54. Okay. And as he does this now, look at that cut though, and look at it get adjusted. There's a lot more space here than he once thought. He follows 84 and 4, and then look at his movement actions just get coordinated in relation to this. Okay. This inside foot out of this jump cut is nasty and right into acceleration. Watch this with 84 and 4 again as he moves in relation to that. And again, let's pay attention to this position. This is, again, this is low. No, don't get me wrong, guys and gals. Like, this is a functional movement strategy, a functional movement solution. We're just thinking about what else could he add? What other layers could be added here that gives him more options? It's always about more options, even if he's organizing. Look at this position. Okay. Obviously, he's low, he's coiled, he's ready to spring, he's ready to bounce, but it often ends up in a singular movement strategy or solution. And that singular movement strategy or solution is coordinated in a jump cutting type of fashion. Now, no two movement solutions are ever the same. I need to repeat that. No two are ever the same, just like no two problems are the same. So it's always repetition without repetition here. But that jump cut is that which what he relies on. And of course, if you're leaving one of the best middle linebackers, one of the most skillful moving middle linebackers in the game, leaving him on your poster like that, you're doing something right. Okay. So I'm nitpicking here. And probably being a little too harsh because this is a pretty functional movement solution. So let's not miss that. Okay. Pretty nifty, pretty filthy. And then, of course, he locks in on number one here once he gets past that interaction. Our third play here, which is a couple to go, and I'll spend a little less time on these because we've already been spending a good deal of time here. Let's go and watch this at 100% speed. There's that jump cut again, but the path to the jump cut, the entry into it, different. Okay. Movement strategies, moves on moves, right? The strategy, totally different, but it's all about the connection to the respective problem. I got a little bit too far. Look at that entry. Okay. It's not the first time we've seen it from him. Okay. But think about how it is different in comparison to the times that we've seen it prior to this point. Watch this entry. Guys and gals, obviously perceive to act, act to perceive, right? Action capabilities matter. You have to have the extraordinary ability to be able to step into that in this fashion. Let's see it in slow motion. Okay. This is cool stuff. Hopefully it's as cool for me as it is for you. This is the last play again. Here comes our next one. Now let me, in this slow motion, hopefully get this. Look at the way he's entering this. This stagger stance, left leg forward to go to his left. All based on trying to fit a movement solution in a functional fashion, in an intertwined, interwoven fashion between what he's perceiving, what decision he's making, how he's intending to act, and ultimately adapting that action in relation to it. Look at that. Again, This is kind of special movement qualities. When I say kind of special movement qualities, it is special movement qualities. This might be a one of one type of thing, at least currently right now in the National Football League. This is something you might see from a Barry Sanders, a Marshall Faulk, a LaDainian Tomlinson, the truly the greatest and most skillful movers who have ever played the game. This is not an easy thing to do. Look at this position. Okay. Look at this platform for being able to move from right to left now going the opposite direction, trying to adapt it and adjust it again in this way. But to do it again in that jump cut fashion, look at the position he lands in. This bounding type of action. One of one, probably. Okay. But it bears repeating because it shows us how special and how dexterous he really is and what allows him to do exactly that. Okay. The other thing that I want to point out is while he's in the midst of this jump cut, okay, let's watch it right here. Okay. As he's about to make this cat miss, okay, in this really tight short space, brinkmanship yet again. Look at where his perceptual gaze. He's still in the midst of the jump cut. And he immediately connects to that next specifying information source, that alive movement problem that is going to tell him, how do I have to act next? Intertwined, interwoven fashion, problem and solution coming together, guys and gals. We cannot miss this because there are levels to this. This is special. And then it allows him to organize a movement action in an online adaptive fashion. Let's not miss it. Okay. Look at this. Pretty special stuff. And now let's go ahead for good measure. We're going to jump ahead to one more. We'll watch it at 100% speed. There won't be a lot to say, but I think you're going to be able to gather that, which what we'll get from it. Down near the end zone, we see that jump cut yet again, applied in a different place of the field at a different time, different constraints. Look at the movement strategy and solution. Okay. This one, I pretty much just added for good measure. Still some layers to that, but we see that that jump cut is one that is a highly stable movement strategy or solution that still he has the ability to flexibly and adaptively adjust. He has that adaptability within that adaptability. And again, like I told you at the onset of this pretty long video, each one of these 4 plays was going to show us some of the best nuances, some of the most skillful qualities that Jonathan Taylor possesses that are different from all others.